Hey everybody, and welcome to Raid Rules Training. This video is the first step in being on the battle counter and participating in the defense of Two Scimitars. And this video replaces a class that we have offered, also called Raid Rules Training, which we started a couple years ago to give people an overview of the rules, and it eventually expanded to be the rules and maps and introductory skills of a variety of sorts for fighting. And over time the whole thing became a rather large class. Sometimes these classes would go for hours, and so we decided to take this other approach, which is to offer this overview video of the raiding program and rules, and then point you to resources like reading the raid rules and some other things, including some other training videos which will help you with specific skills you might want or might not want depending on your skill level. So it's an a la carte approach now. The only thing that's required is this raid rules video overview, watching this, being familiar with the raid rules, and then doing a battle test with one of the Rari Kajari or warriors. So the reason for doing it this way, or why we care, why we've been doing this for a couple years trying to do raid rules training, is just because Scimitar is unique. It's not really like a lot of the other sims. There are by the book sims which are mostly roleplay oriented, and they have their rules which favor roleplay. A lot of them don't allow women or slaves to fight, for example, and fighting is kind of rare in most of them. And then there's the fighting-oriented sims like the GE and the SEG, the Super Evolved Gore and the Gore Evolved sims, which are primarily about fighting and really not involved in roleplay at all. So this is a hybrid between those two kinds of sims, and our rules are also hybrid, and we want everybody to kind of understand what makes our rules unique and why we have them. Because if we expect raiders to follow our rules here, then we feel like we have to follow them as well. So that's why we have this class, to kind of preserve the balance we have between roleplay and raiding, which is kind of unique to Two Scimitars. One of the things we're going to do in this video is name things. So as I go through the video, I'm going to be taking some time and naming things. Like right now we're between the two parts of the warrior hall. We call this side the cells or the jail, and then this side is called the barracks. We want to name things because it's important as we go along on a raid, and when we say everybody to the barracks or everybody to the victory room or so on and so forth, we want everybody to know where we're talking about. Okay, this is the battle counter right here, this red and white striped box. And as you can see right now, it shows 4 people on sim. There's actually a lot more than 4 people on sim. There are 10 people on sim at the moment. But of those 10, what this box shows is 4 have taken the raid rules training and satisfied the requirements and could defend if we had a raid. So one of the things that makes us unique is that we have a rather large percentage of people at Scimitars who, for one reason or another, don't raid. They're just roleplay oriented. Maybe they don't want to raid, or maybe they have a computer that's not really capable of raiding. And so we've developed this system of the battle counter. Once you're able to raid and have gone through the training program I'm about to outline, your name goes on this as well. So we're going to go see how to get on that battle counter. The first thing to do is to go into the conference room in the barracks, and you'll see this book here. You click this book and we'll give you a folder, and inside the folder is this note card, which is the outline of our fight training program. It has an overview, and it's going to repeat some of the information I just gave you. To be eligible to defend at Scimitar, and I'm going to read this because I'm sure the writing is pretty small. You have to watch this raid rules training video, you have to be familiar with the current rules, and then you have to take a battle test with one of the Rari Kajari. There's a link here, right here, for what our current rules are. And as you can see, they're fairly extensive, but we hope everybody will read them. Want you to take a special note of the quick rules, which are in the beginning here. It's about a page and a half. And the quick rules have the most important rules in it, so focus on those, make sure you know all that stuff. And then you'll see the main raid rules start down here. We'll get to those in a minute. So this third item here about the battle test, this card will explain what goes in the battle test. So in the battle test, to get checked out and be put on the battle counter, you have to answer random questions, which are going to come from this video or from the raid rules that you clicked here. The next thing is to check to make sure you have legal weapons. I'm just going to show you for a moment. Inside the raid rules, pretty close to the top, is a link here to the WTG GM weapons list. If you click that, you will find this list here, which has all the approved weapons makers in Gore. You'll see a couple are not on it, like Primus, but most people are on it. So if you have a question about whether your weapon is legal or not, that's where to find the answer. Getting back to what's required on the battle test. So we have the answer questions of raid rules in this video. Check to make sure you have legal weapons. The next thing is to make sure you can do fast swaps, which is like that, where you can switch between your bow and blade and bow and blade. That's usually done with gestures, and there will be some help for making gestures if you don't know how. The other part of the check will be to make sure you have scripts that are within the limits at Scimitar, because scripts affect leg and leg affects battle outcome. At Scimitar, if you're a slave, we want you to have about 75 scripts or less, and if you're free, 50 or less. There's also a limit of, I think, 2.5 megabytes of memory for slaves and free. You can see your script and memory limits on a big board down at the Oasis. I'll point to that in a minute if you're wondering how many scripts you have. Or you can also just click your oops, I actually have to spin around, but if you click your face, if you got a mesh avatar and click script info, you'll see it down here in your local chat. So for example, right now I have 26 scripts and I'm using 0.07 of memory CPU time. So okay, what else? The other thing we want to know is that you can bandage and aid. We want to make sure you know how to start and stop a lockpick, and then we want to make sure that you can find specific places around Scimitar, like the victory room, the crypts, and jump down points. Later in this video we'll show you some of those points. And then finally, in the battle test, there'll be a brief spar just to show you have basic skill levels. You don't have to even necessarily defeat the warrior or the Rari Kajari, but we just want to make sure that you know how to switch between your weapons and that you can use whatever your melee weapon is and your bow. You don't have to be an expert fighter here at Two Scimitars. Most of us are not expert fighters. This is really about having fun, but everybody should be on at least this kind of level, this beginning point of knowing the rules, being able to fast swap weapons, and so on and so forth, as we said on this card. And once you get that done, the warrior or Rari Kajari that gives you your test will put your name on a card that goes into this box, and so then your name would be one of the ones that would appear here as well. On this list here, I'm back to the list that came from this card. There is a list of the people who can give you the test. I'm not sure it's got everybody on it right now, but it will by the time you click it. So these are the warriors in Rari Kajari who can do that for you. There's also, I'm going to continue going down this card, there's resources for a few other things. You should already have your Cool Chat HUD, but there's also a link here for TeamSpeak, which is the program that looks like this.
Welcome back.
This is a voice program which we use during raids and only during raids, and I can't stress enough how much that helps. To what happens then is the leader, me or whomever is leading, can just say, can holler out instructions in real time, what's happening, can call targets and who's weak and who needs to be bandaged and all that kind of stuff. We just do so much better when most of us are on TeamSpeak. So if you don't have a problem with hearing some of your fellow Scimitarians or speaking to them during a raid, please click this card, download the resource. It's free, doesn't cost anything. Scimitar owns the TeamSpeak's server, and you'll be able to hear and communicate with us during a raid, and you'll have a lot more fun because you'll actually know what's going on way more than you do when we're typing up messages, especially if it's me, because I'm a horrible typist. But in Cool Chat, which is this text-based system here, it just takes a few minutes to compose those messages and relay them. Sometimes by the time you've managed to say who it is, let's say we're pointing out enemies that are weak that we might want to target, by the time I've been able to get myself safe and type out that message, that opportunity is often lost, and so it's harder to win if we're not on TeamSpeak. And then on the bottom of the card are a bunch of other video training links which you may or may not need to do some of these things up here. So if you don't have, for example, to go back up to this battle test, if you don't know how to fast swap your weapons, or how to start and stop lockpicks, or etc., if you come down here, you'll see links on this card to other training videos. One is going to be on the GM meter, and will actually also be on the ZCS meter. I'll show you what that looks like. That's this right here. ZCS meter is just another meter. We use the GM meter primarily at Scimitar. That's this one up here, but this is the ZCS meter. It's just an alternative way of measuring arrow hits. It measures them in exactly the same way as a GM meter does, or almost exactly the same way. It has a couple things that are a little bit different. We don't care. We allow people, enemies, to come here and use either meter, either the ZCS or the GM meter. But there are some differences between the two. That's all covered in this video. There'll also be one on setting up TeamSpeak and Cool Chat. There's one on locks and lockpicking. There's going to be one on making battle gestures. These as an example. Those are all detailed on, if you don't know how to do it on a video. There's a video on combat settings like using the mini-map and tracking, and some of the other graphic features that are built into Firestorm and the other viewers. There's one on reducing your scripts if you've got some problems with lag and so forth, and then there's one on changing graphics to reduce your lag and improve your performance, which is going to make a big difference on how well you fight. Like right now, you can see I'm only getting 30 frames per second. That's considered kind of the minimum to be able to fight fairly decently. I'm only getting 30 right. I normally get about 100, but because I'm doing a video capture, it's slowing me down, and I'm only getting 30. At any rate, if you're getting somewhere like 30 or less, be sure to check out that video, because it will help you improve your performance quite a lot. Then there's a few other skills training, I guess I'll call it, video programs. One is on defense strategies and tips, and I really hope you take a look at that one because it shows how to use our build to our advantage. One's on melee skills, one's on range skills, and then one's on raiding at enemy sims. So that's the stuff you can find on this card. Those are all resources that are available to you if you need it. If you already know all that stuff, you don't have to watch it. That's what this a la carte idea is all about. When you're ready to go on this battle counter here, the one other thing to do if you're on the GM meter, which you should be, is to set your group key. This is only for people who have already passed and are ready to go on the battle counter though. What this group key does is we type in, type in Scimitar, S-C-I-M-I-T-R, no A in it, and submit it, and then that gives me a group key here, which will put my count on a little sign that's down at the landing. I'll show that to you in a minute. That gives scouts from raiding parties a heads up as to how many people might be in character here when they come to look and see if they want to raid. but that should be only something that you do if you're on the defender counter. I'll just do one other little thing in here. In my office are these boxes. These boxes have cards for some of the things I just mentioned, because sometimes people learn better from the cards. It kind of depends on whether you prefer video or how you like to get your information. But you'll see stuff on making gestures, improving your graphics, reducing your scripts, and some other tools on those boxes in my office as well. Feel free to help yourself. And this is also where the Cool Chat HUD can be gotten if you don't have one, which you should, because everybody is required to wear one here at Scimitar. So okay, let's go to the landing. This is the little sign I was telling you about here. This is the Scimitar sign. If you click this, it will give you the number of people. It's probably going to come up with 0 or 1 only now, because I saw there were only 2 people. Oh, what do you know? Well, there's 2 people that are on it. That means there's 2 people that are on the defender counter, hopefully, who would raid. I'm not counted because I'm out of character. But this is the little thing that scouts from raiding parties will use to see how many people, before even asking us about how many are in character. This is the main giver of our raid rules. We already have raid rules, I guess, but let me just show you that. So this is always the most current version of our raid rules is located in this sign here, and you get it by clicking it. So we're going to just go over this really briefly, and it really will be brief, because I want you to all just take some time and read this when it's a good time for you to do it. I'm not going to go even touch on every section of the raid rules, but I'm going to draw your attention to the ones that are most likely to come up in the battle test with the Rarikajari warriors. So the first thing to pay attention to, I think, especially pay attention to, is this section on raid locks, and then the one right after it on raid ratio and IC count. This is one of the things, as I said before, that makes Scimitar unique from other sims, because we have such a large percentage of people. Like right now we have 7 people on the sim, and only 2 of them are on this counter. In most raiding sims, virtually everybody that's in the sim would be on the counter. So when raiders come and they see 7 dots on the map like this, they would normally assume that every person that's in character would be a raider. Well, we can't work that way, because some of our people will never raid, and then other people, including me sometimes, we might be raiders, but we're in the middle of a role play that we don't want to stop, and so we've developed this IC count system. And a lot of places use it, but what's unique about us is, well, the percentage, as I just said, of the people who are role players only is one thing that's unique. And then we have a couple rules about people who are out of character or AFK who are allowed to come back in character if they want to be counted in the IC count, which is not allowed at a lot of other places, but we do allow it here. So just, I'm not going to go over every part of these rules with you, but look at that so that you understand how an IC count works and what you need to do when an IC count is called in Cool Chat. The other thing to pay attention to in this section is the difference between raids, which are 3 or more people, and skirmishes, and what locks the sim. So skirmishes can happen at any time. Anybody can come into Two Scimitars with 2 or fewer people and start a raid. They don't have to announce it. They don't have to do anything. They can go up to lockpick and get their way into the gates, for example. And once they're inside, the skirmish starts. A raid, though, requires this IC count. So look at the difference between those 2 things. Just kind of scanning down through here, look at the weapons rules. And then pretty important is this section on emotes. We've really simplified our emotes at Scimitars. We used to have emotes for virtually every action, and we've cut down to just a few things that require emotes. And the ones that are most important are binding and key steals, I guess. So binding, we require 3 emotes. One of them has to have the name. Key steals, That's when somebody has already bound you and drags you towards the door. Those require 2 emotes, and in both cases, that one of the emotes has to include your name. All of our emotes at Scimitar should be about 10 words. I'm going to get into another aspect of emotes here, and I want to make a general point about emotes, which I'm going to use as I'm going to give you an example of it, but it's really true of every emote, which is that an emote is supposed to be delivered where the action is performed. So the idea is that, you know, part of the emote is going up to the person, let's say, and then taking the time to have to type it all out, and then delivering it while you're under fire. So let's say I have a volunteer here, and Kalina has volunteered to pretend that she has fallen off the wall, which would never happen. But if it did happen, and I'm the enemy in this scenario, what's most likely is there's going to be some of us, or some of Scimitar, up here on this tower, and maybe some down here along these parts of the wall. And our number one priority now is going to be to try and get and cover Kalina so that she can try and run back into the gate, so that we won't give up our keys and lose the battle. Because usually when we give up the keys, it really changes things and it advantages them. So what sometimes people tend to do is they'll run up, they'll deliver a line, and then they'll run back to the wall because they're getting too much arrow fire, whatever. They'll type up another emote, they'll run over to the victim, and then they'll deliver it, and then they're oh my god, they're getting hammered by arrows, and so they'll, you know, find some other protection. They'll type up an emote, and then they'll run back and deliver it. We don't allow that, and we also don't allow just pasting like this. I just copied one from my own. We don't allow that either, where you're not actually typing it. But so right now I'm within 5 meters of her, so that's acceptable, and let's just assume that I've done 3 good emotes. I don't usually get much originality on these, and I tie her up. That's acceptable. So the idea is that I've typed them now right next to her bubble, and she's accepted them. So and the idea of this, of course, is that it's got, you know, in fairness, we the defenders at Scimitar should have an opportunity to try and protect her and prevent the enemy from being able to get their keys. So the same is true of every emote. So for example, if I take her over to the gate, let's see, am I walking? Yep. I bring her over here. Presumably I'm getting just hammered by arrows. I'm on the key server, so the gate's going to open for me, but let's, you know, if I was the enemy, it wouldn't. So the idea here is also I can't just run off to a corner over here and type something up and then come back and deliver it, and then run over here and type it up and deliver it. I have to type the emote here at the door. Oh my gosh. Something like that, and that's acceptable, but I can't do it somewhere else. And this is true of pretty much every emote, no matter what it is. So when you see the emotes going through the list, keep in mind that every emote has to be done where the action's performed. Kind of get an idea in your head of, you know, remember how many emotes there are. As I said before, it's greatly simplified from how it used to be. There's not too many things that require emotes anymore. If there's a dispute on an emote, like somebody only gives you 1 key steal emote, let's say, it's okay to decline when they click the door and try and steal your key. It's okay to decline that. If you scroll back and you look back in local chat here, and you see that they've not given you 2 emotes. It's okay to decline that action because they haven't done it, but then what we want you to do is be prepared to note card your local chat, and also message that person or put it in local chat in double brackets, not accepting the key steal because we require 2 or something like that, and do it quickly and politely so that they have a chance to fix it and don't think we're stalling or cheating. Because in general we've found that even though there are people out there that do cheat, it's just overall better to take the higher ground, to not cheat, to do our best to play fair and to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that way when the inevitable asshats come and really cheat, and there's no doubt about it, we can hold our heads high and don't have to feel bad about banning them from the sim or whatever. So but please don't make those decisions yourself. If possible, give that to a leader. In general, if there's question about it, we require 10 words but they only gave you 6 or 7, or they misspelled your name, or they named you wrong but you can tell it's you, give them the benefit of the doubt and accept the bind and move on. As you get to be a better raider and are better at detecting when there's an obvious cheat, and you've got some sort of proof that it's a cheat because of whatever you're able to note card in local chat, then that can be kind of a different matter, particularly if it's something that could change the nature of the raid, like a key steal, like if somebody just doesn't give you any it's very clear that they use pre-type emotes or something like that. But we will never be mad for you siding in favor of the raider, because we just want to kind of be above and beyond and very fair. So I guess that is all I have to say on emotes in general. Thank you, Kalina, for letting me down you. I guess we'll get back and do some of the other things now. I'm going to release her here. One of the things that this video is about is identifying things. So for example, these are the levers for the main door. These are things we would hope for you to know during the battle test. That's the front gate. These are the metal gates. And this and all these things around here, I guess we might as well get this over with as well. This is an emergency horn. And we sound these when a raid starts typically. We've usually already done an IC count, and so people will know that the raid is coming in. If you hear this go off and you know there's a raid incoming, it means everybody should be on the walls ready to defend, because the raid is actually either running in or just about to run in. If there isn't a raid that's been called and you hear this siren go off, which I'm going to sound right now, then that means, and you can see it's pretty loud, and there's a lot of and these horns are located pretty much throughout the city. They're all connected, so if you push one, they all go off. If again, if you wind up hearing the sound and a raid's been called, it means that the raid is incoming and that you should be on the wall and ready to defend if you've given your one to be a defender, or you should have set out of character or AFK if you're not a defender. If a raid wasn't called, if there wasn't an IC count and the thing just goes off, it either means that it's gone off by accident, which sometimes happens, in which case please tell us it was an accident in group chat, or else it means there's a skirmish going on. So that means somewhere in the city somebody is fighting, which we do allow, and a skirmish means 1 or 2 people have run in. We don't require an IC count for that. They probably lockpicked a gate or something like that and they're causing trouble. So in that situation you want to get your weapons out and start looking for whoever the troublemakers are and hunt them down and try and protect your colleagues and friends here at Scimitar. So I think that pretty much covers the emotes area, and we kind of accidentally got into the horn thing. I've moved over here to the the Slavers Hall, but there are other of these horns located throughout the city. There's one at the tavern here, I think, right there, and there's one down at the bathhouse. And that pretty much takes care, I think, of what I wanted to say about emotes. So getting back to the rules, just to finish that off, we were kind of scanning them. The other section of this that is worth looking at here is the capture, roleplay, rescue section of the note card. And this is one of those areas also where we're a little bit different than other sims, and it's worth paying attention to, because if you're a rating sim, pretty much everybody that's on that sim, 100% of the people are involved in rating, and that's all they do. They don't really do any role play. And here, where we have a mix of people, where at any given moment we might be 50-50 role players and fighters, or we might be, you know, mostly fighters or mostly role players. We have a lot of variety, and we really like that. We think that's a strength at Scimitar, that we're able to do both. That we're really one of the only role-playing sims that has an active fighting program, gay or straight, anywhere in Gore, and it's not easy to maintain that balance. So some of our rules are designed to protect us from getting into cycles of endless raids and rescues, and this section here is one of them. And what it says to raiders is, if you come here, you have to come here as a city. You have to primarily be from one place. You have to attack us. You have to, and then you can take captives. And then if you take captives, we will rescue them. But sometimes people come and raid in other situations. They might be a group of different raiders from different sims. They may be from just a rough collection. There's all these raiding groups that are out there that have message systems, and they just come together and move from sim to sim and raid for fun. And that's all fine, but we don't want them to take captives with them. And also, another situation where we won't necessarily do a rescue is if somebody violates our rules, like let's say they bring three times as many people as we allow, or something like that. Well, we'll allow the raid to happen. We won't stop the raid necessarily, but we, in that kind of situation, don't allow a captive. We allow captives to be taken, though, because we favor roleplay, but it's up to you, and you have to know that we won't do a rescue in a situation like that, just to prevent the sim from getting pulled into that endless cycle which disrupts everybody's roleplay. If you want to do a captive roleplay, though, by all means do it, because they can be fun, and you know, that's what Gorian roleplay should be all about. It's just that we may not do a roleplay in that situation. So if you're wondering what situations we will and won't do a roleplay from, read this section and then talk to one of us. The other situation, I guess I would say, is if you've set something up and you're having really fun in your captive roleplay, let us know, and we will delay doing a rescue. There's, you know, we do a rescue because we owe it to the other sim, but if you're having fun and the other sim is cool with it, then we're cool with it. You know, we want people to have fun and do whatever roleplay they want to do. Sometimes people stay captives for a day or two, and we will do a rescue at some later date, or sometimes we just do a trade or something else. But if it's a sim that will work with us, we're happy to do that. And if it's something that you've just worked out with somebody else, and maybe we have a loose raiding group that comes in and they might take you as a captive, that's perfectly okay. Just know that we won't necessarily go to somebody's sim where we have to face a full raiding sim just to support that role play. So you may have to not only have a kind of prearranged having that capture, but also prearrange a way out for yourself. Either that we'll trade for you, which we would be happy to do, or that you escape or something like that. Anyway, all that stuff is kind of explained in here, and it kind of segues into this, and this is probably the last section we need to talk about on raid rules, I think, which is roleplay limits, which is an issue that does come up in raiding fairly often. There are people out there, you know, you may be one of them, that don't want, you know, violence or rape or rough roleplay or things like that, and that's perfectly okay. Just make sure to put it in your roleplay limits. Roleplay limits are usually, you can find those in the profile. So for example, and they're usually in this pick section. So here I have my Gorian roleplay limits right here. And just put the things that you won't do in this list so that this is where raiders will look for them. And one word of warning about that is just that the more sort of I guess things that you won't do that are in there, the more conditions or limits you have in there, it does tend to cut back on the number of roleplay opportunities you have for capture. But by all means, put whatever, if you're uncomfortable with something, it's kind of your responsibility to put it there so that people know. And then the convention, not just here at Scimitar, but everywhere in Gore, is if you've got a roleplay limit in your profile, it has to be respected. So you should never feel forced to do something that is in your roleplay limits. Okay, at this point what we're going to do is run around the sim. We're going to get into the kind of last phase of this training exercise, which is to run around and identify things in the sim. The first thing I'm going to do is just kind of give you an overview by pulling up like this. So this is Scimitar seen from about 500 feet up, and then you got the caravan over here, and this is the sand. Most of the initial fighting happens here. There's this high tower located over here, and this is where in the beginning portion of the raid it's generally best if the greatest number of forces are here, because it is also the only place that has a really good direct line of fire to the front gate. So high tower is this wall. We call this the south wall because this is the south side of the sim, and then we call this the gate wall between the two towers where the main gate is located. This area here is the courtyard. This is the Warriors Hall here, and I think we already talked about how this side of it is called the jail, and this side of it is called the barracks, which the barracks also run in this area along the courtyard. This is the commander's tower over here. Just naming all the things that we tend to go to. And then there's some of the stuff is located in the tunnel section. I'm going to do that in a minute. One of the things that I do want to point out, and I'm probably going to do this with a bunch of cuts, and so this part of the video is probably going to look kind of ugly. But we have a variety of jump down points at Scimitar, and the purpose of them is that let's say we're out, or let's say the fight is, they still haven't gotten in the front gate here, and we've managed to capture some people. They're tied up, they're back here, and now we're in pretty good health, and they're really hurting out here. It can sometimes make sense to do a rush, and what a rush means is wherever you're at, we're going to want to rush into the sand. We're going to want to all come down here and try and fight the few people that are remaining, but we all want to get down there at about the same time. And so in order for that to happen, you don't want everybody to have to take all the time to run all the way around to, let's say, the front gate and go through the front gate and run through that. So we have made a few jump down points, and I'm going to show you one here. They all look sort of like this right here. Oops, don't have my arrows out. They all look like this right here. They're just these little ramps, and they're designed so that if you run at them like this, you'll run over the wall. If you walk over them, it doesn't work. But it's a jump down point, and it allows you to fall down onto the sand. So if we call a rush, what I want you to do is know where those jump down points are, so that if, for example, you're on the gate wall, that was probably the closest one right there. There's also one on the far side, on that little wall on the far side, kind of behind the high cast area and behind the high tower. There's one on this side of the gate tower. So I'm going to just show you where those are. Okay, I said I was going to show you where those are. I'm running actually towards the high tower along that tower wall, and I'm going to show you a little cutaway here. There, see this little ramp here? This allows you to jump behind the high tower, and then this is a jump down point right here. It's on the far side of the high tower. This is the back side of the high tower right here. High tower. So this is a jump down point just to run off this ledge. and then the other one is over on that side of the high tower. I'll go cut up to that right now. And that's the other one on the other side of the high tower. It's right here. I don't know if you can get perspective on where we are, but this is the south wall, so it's at the end of the south wall. And once again, you just run on it, and then you're down in the sand. So those are the jump down points to get out on the sand. So you can go either from that far one by the south tower, this one by the gate wall, this one by the gate wall on the end of the south tower, or to do a rush on the front sand. You can also, of course, come through the front gates. But what's important is to kind of figure out where are you relative to one of those jump down points. Now there's also jump down points to get to this inner courtyard. So what winds up happening in a typical raid is that the fight moves, eventually we lose the main gate, and hopefully we've taken a couple people out of the raiders by then. And now they're all fighting down in the inner courtyard. Well, we can have the same scenario where we capture a couple people on the inner courtyards, and then we want to call a rush because we've got them all weak. Maybe everybody's down there healing. So it is absolutely critical in a rush that everybody go down at about the same time. And so we'll send out a message in Cool Chat, and we'll say we're going to do a rush in in 20 seconds or something like that. Or better yet, if everybody's in team chat, we will be explaining all this in real time as that happens. And so wherever you are, you need to know where you are in relation to one of these drop down points. So this is one of them. This is a drop down to the courtyard on this side. I'll show you there's one on the other side. That was right there by that weird little almost hidden statue. Of course you can rush through the gates as well, just like the one I just came through. This one is a little bit hidden that I'm about to show you on the other side of the gate wall. Okay, and this is the other jump down point. So this one's on the south wall right here. I'm right standing in front of it. And this is the other south wall jump down point. There's kind of a little ramp, as you can see, that you got to run over the wall. So this gets you down on that side. So know where you are in relation to that, and then I'm going to show you there's two more jump down points. They're in the warrior hall, and they're on the corners of each floor. On the second floor there, or sorry, I guess that's the third floor, and on the corner of the second floor right there. I'm going to run up into the warrior hall and show you what those look like from the inside. Actually, I'm just going to go into the second floor, and they're in the same relative location on each floor, but as you can see, they're just little ramps like this. You can barely even see that it's there, but there's one directly above me too. So take the time and find these when you get a chance, and if you happen to be fighting in this area, this is another jump down point. These are the only places to get into the courtyard, so know where these things are. Please take the time to kind of run around the city and be familiar with all the jump down points. These are definitely places that we will probably ask you about in the battle tests with the Rari Kajari warriors. So okay, this brings us almost to the end. We're going to look at the tunnel system now. This is our tunnel system. This is another thing which it's just going to take a little bit of time to figure out for people who are new to it. People tell me that they get lost in the tunnels all the time, and the best way to remedy that is literally just spend 5 minutes a day for a week running these tunnels, and for most people that will be all it takes to figure it out. It's really not that complicated a system. I'm going to show you this map here, but I'm also going to bring you to the locations. But let's see, on this map we're located right here. We're right here. We're outside the warrior hall. So let me run into the jail, and you'll see there's even the doors are marked here. So this is the marking that begins right here. I enter here, and we're in the tunnel system. Now on the right side are these red and green tunnel sections. These are all in the upper cast area. And then this blue tunnel, which is going to run off down these stairs to my left here, that's a lower level that kind of circles back and goes down to the lower cast area. So this is where people tend to get confused as which tunnel system are they in, because they are on a couple different levels. But the first thing we're going to do is find the victory room, because this is critical. In the victory room, it's this kind of like shaded area you can see here. I'm going to minimize this. So you run in through the warrior hall, through the jail, and take a right, and your first left, right here, and this is the victory room. Now, in the back of the victory room are also some additional cells, and this is where we tend to put prisoners. It's the best place to put prisoners in the middle of a battle, because this is very often our last stand kind of area, and if we put prisoners back here, then we don't have to worry about them fighting us. Their enemies are going to have to fight through us to get to them. So very often we put them there. And typically we'll want people to kind of gather in this area and take a look at the strategy video that is at the end, that is on that note card, and it will explain how to fight in the victory room. But for the purposes of what we're doing right now, my main concern is just that everybody be able to find it. So right now we're in the victory room. We're in this light red area here, number 2. This door here is a key-only door, which means it can't be lock-picked, and it goes to this sort of green escape tunnels. One of them goes to the base of the high tower, and one of them goes to the museum. I'll show you those two in a minute. Through this main door, we just came from this position right here, and we just took those couple turns. If I hadn't taken this turn into this hallway here to go into the victory room, I would have continued down this way, and this goes to the magistrate's office, which I'm running through right now, and this goes up through a little jail cell into the courtroom, and then if I continue through this door, it'll wind down to the crypts, which I will do right now. And I'm actually just going to cut to the crypt door, because this is where I want you to go. So when we say to meet at the crypts, this is where we mean. We're right here at this door right here, this double door here. And normally when we gather at the crypts, this is another sort of last defense kind of thing. Some people will be back here with their bows aiming at the door. We'll have somebody holding a door here usually to hold it open, because we're going to try and lure some of the enemy in. And then we'll have people ready to melee on each side with their melee weapons. So again, look at that strategy video, because it will explain this in more detail, what the points are and what we're going to try and do with the defense in the crypts. But this is one of the places that we very often go. So when we call crypts, this is where we mean for you to go. And it's very important you learn how to do this through the tunnel system, because most likely by the time we call go to the victory room or go to the crypts, it means that the enemy has gotten into the city, or they're just about to get in. And so it's kind of important not to, run through this area, let's say, because probably the enemy is already out here. By the way, this is the bath gate. So people ask about whether the bath gate has been closed. This is the gate they mean. The gate by the baths. That's why it's called the bath gate. Okay, so to get back to our map here. Okay, we just looked at these two sections here. We ran through this long tunnel to get there. This is the crypt. This is back in the victory room. I'm going to show you that green area from the top. I'm going to run back up to the high cast area. If I go through this door here, this is the entry to, remember, this is the magistrate's area right here. So if I went down this stair, I would be able to come back into this hall and go up to the victory room that way. But we're going to go to this other section of tunnel here, this green section. And this one has kind of a tricky entrance to it under the statue in the museum. All you have to do is bump this, it opens, and you fall into this hole. If you need to come out, you actually have to click this ladder and climb it. And now we're in this green section. We're running down this hall right here. And if I come through this door, which I'm about to do, going past this kind of narrow, I've just passed that, and I'm at this little door. This is the victory room again, from the green side, the green tunnels, the escape tunnels. And if I go this way, that way right there is where we just came from the museum. And if I go down this long tunnel, we'll come to the high tower. Again, just kind of run these during the day. Spend 5 minutes and run through them and kind of like practice running around and seeing if you can find, you get to the end of the high tower, and then you know, how do you get to the warrior hall, or you know, how do you get to the crypts from there, and just try and see if you can think of as many ways to get there as you can. That's how you get good at this. And then this is the base of that. This is that ramp, that jump down point again, that goes out to the sand. That's the back side of the high tower, and now we're just in the high cast area. Okay, I'm going to go back to the warrior hall. Okay, so here I'm at the warrior hall. I'm going to run into the jail, and I'm going to go back to that very first tunnel that we entered, and I'm going to call that up so you can see where, again, we entered the warrior hall. We're at this door here again. Everything we did before was to the right. We ran down this way to the victory room, and then to the crypts, and then we checked out this green tunnel. Now we're going to go to the left and go down to the lower tunnels. Has a dead end here on the left, which is the dungeons, which perhaps some of you are familiar with. This is a free for anybody to use kind of play area. That's the stair we just came up. And if I continue down this, and it's really quite a long ways, so I may cut, we come to the low cast area. Now, in the low cast area, I'm right here. This is also sort of a donut, kind of like the crypts is a donut. So I'm going to keep going in the same direction so we can see the different exits. Just kind of, that's another one of these kind of hidden Y intersections that trips people up. But I'm going to continue down this way. The first exit we come to is this one, which will take us up towards the laundry in the low cast area. Right here, there's the laundry for those of you that need to do your wash, garden shop, etc. And the entrance just looks like this. Go back down. We'll continue to go to the left. That's where we just came from. I'm going to go straight ahead. This next one is kind of an interesting one. Off to our right is going to be a little kind of cul-de-sac here. And this is the base of the sewer grate, and this is right by the kind of blacksmith area, and so it's a place you can drop down but you can't get back out. So it's kind of a fun thing once you get to know the city fairly well and you're running around and people are after you. It's a good way to try and shake people if they don't have a key, is to drop down here. They can't follow you. And then if we continued going around this way just a little ways, we get to that intersection, that kind of hard to see intersection right here. So this is the way we came from, right there. That goes up towards the dungeon and the warrior hall, the jail side. And then if we went that way, we'd be going back towards the laundry in that circle. We just came from here. And I'm going to show you the other side of the warrior hall, the barracks side, which is where these stairs go. So here we are coming back up into the warrior hall, and we're going to come right to the battle counter and all that. So that's how you get here. So there's all kinds of different routes that you can run. These are all things that you could potentially be asked about on the test. So for sure, know how to get to the crypts, know how to get to the victory room. You could be asked to find any one of the places that I brought you to here today. There's a lot of other things to find in the city, but for now I think these are good basic places to get started with. So just, I guess the thing is to please take some time to run this every day. People get lost in the tunnels all the time. It's one of the biggest reasons that we can lose some of our battles, is just people getting lost. And the best and only way to remedy that really is to just keep running it every day until you're pretty sure where everything is located. Well, I think that covers everything that I wanted to talk about. So I hope to see your name on this battle counter right here very soon, meaning that you will have finished reading the raid rules and taken your battle test with one of the warriors Orari Kajari. It's a lot of fun to fight at Scimitar. There's a lot of good roleplay that goes along with it. You don't have to be a part of every raid, but in order to be a part of any raid, you do have to at least finish taking your battle test and reading the raid rules. So thanks again for watching today. If there's some way to make this faster, better, something you didn't understand, let me know. Happy to help. Thanks for watching.